William Hill Vegas sponsors Frampton versus Quigg on Sky Sports Box Office.
Radio Rahim here with Glenn McRory. If you are at all wondering what's going to happen tomorrow night, this is the man to talk to. You are a fortune teller, sir, and we are looking to you to decide this what seems to be a 50-50 fight. How do you see Scott Quigg and Carl Frampton going down Saturday night at Manchester Arena?
Well, I tell you what, my crystal ball is a little bit fuzzy. It's a little bit cloudy at the moment because this fight is a special fight. You've got two fighters at the peak of their prowess, and they've come together. It's a grudge match, although I don't think there's any real sort of disrespect in there because they're both such nice guys. But it's a really, really good fight, and I think they're both ready. They're both looking absolutely tremendous shape. There's no real weaknesses in either one. That's why they're both undefeated. But for me, if I'm going to stick my neck out, and it's only by a little bit, but I think Carl Frampton has just got a little bit more in each department. I just think he's been in the game longer. You know, he's went through the amateur at a high level, and I think he's a tough guy, comes from a tough area. So there's, you know, as does Scott. So there, you know, I just think he's got a little bit more of a good boxing brain, and also he's got a good punch. So I just think all round, I just think he's just slightly better. But it would not surprise me any outcome to this fight. If Scott Quigg went out there and knocked Carl Frampton out in the first round, that's why this fight is really intriguing. That's why everybody, you know, wants to be here, wants to see this fight.
You know, people who are brave enough to venture a prediction, as you just did, tend to come down where you did. So how much, when it comes to Scott Quigg, does heart and desire play a role in this? Like, he feels like he's been treated like the underdog. He's not getting the dressing room he wants. He's had to give up all of these negotiation, leverages, and he feels disrespected. As a fighter yourself, do those kind of things play a role in making a guy perform maybe better than he otherwise would?
There's a little saying: life's battles often go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And Scott Quigg is a man who has massive belief in himself, who does not see himself ever losing, you know, who thinks he can conquer anything, who trains as passionately, as hard as any fighter that you have out there. So if anybody can go through a storm, if anybody who can walk through a wall, it's this man. But I just think with the combination of good boxing, he might start to get frustrated, and that sort of mentality of never give up might play into Frampton's hands late in the fight, because he might start making mistakes. And Frampton, as we've seen in the build-up, is a very cool man. Even if tempers fray and it gets, you know, he's not, you know, he just stays under the radar and just weighs things up, and he's always thinking. I've got massive respect, and he's you know, I think the world of the little man Scott Quigg. You know, he's a great kid. And I'd be over the moon. You know, whoever wins, the best man wins. In my opinion, I just think the best man is Carl Frampton.
That being the challenge for Scott Quigg, when we turn to Carl Frampton, much is made of him being knocked down twice in his last fight against an opponent that people didn't expect to give him much of a challenge, and it ended up, to his credit, being a fight where he got up off the canvas not once but twice and got the victory. But when you're a fighter like he is, an odds-on favorite, you're coming into somebody else's hometown and you've got the bigger crowd support, you're the spotlight side, as they continue to say. Does an experience like that in the previous fight make you a little gun-shy from being knocked down, or does it give you more confidence by having gotten up twice?
I think, if anything, that will make him a better fighter, because I think there's always, you know, we're all human, and if you're signing up with Al Heyman and somebody's saying you're going to be the next big thing, you go to America in your opponent's backyard, that comes with a great deal of confidence, and maybe at times that's a little bit overconfidence. And I think he was put in his place by a good fighter very quickly, but it takes a pretty special fighter to be put on the floor in his opponent's backyard, away from home, to get that sort of shock, and then to regroup, to pull yourself together, to get your boxing head on, and then to pull out a good win. That takes a touch of class, because that's hard to do. Because normally when fights start going wrong, they go wrong big time. So that showed some good quality, and I think that'll be a little kick up the backside to him to say, you know what, you can't do that anymore. You can't rest on your laurels. Every fight is a challenge.
So few fights come in with so many backstories, so much intrigue, so many things to consider and think about. Glenn McRory, you've given us the insight to how a fighter thinks, some thoughts about what these guys may be going through in their minds when that bell rings. We appreciate the time. Radio Rahim with Glenn McRory. We'll see you Saturday night at Manchester Arena. Thank you so much.
As always. Thank you.
William Hill Vegas sponsors Frampton versus Quigg on Sky Sports Box Office.